Watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into the paper review. Let's see what the headlines are across Nigerian newspapers this morning. And to help us make sense of some of the headlines, I have in the studio the President, Yewa Awori Youth Council, Abayomi Asiwaju. Okay. Abayomi, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
great.
There. Well done.
Right. And we also have CEO CKN News, Chris Kendengwandu, joining us on Skype. CKN, good to see you. Good morning.
Thank God it's Friday, Mike. Good morning.
How you doing? Thank God it's Friday. But you're looking like a New Yorker this morning.
Yes, brother. How you doing, bro?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm fine. Good to see you. Right. Let's begin with the Daily Times. Daily Times says Buhari presents 16.39 trillion naira 2022 budget to National Assembly, and that was done yesterday. Right, from there, let's go to the First News. First News says Buhari justifies borrowing, presents 2022 budget. Okay, that's First News. Then Nigeria Tribune is next, and it says at the 16.39 trillion naira appropriation bill presentation, Buhari says Nigeria exited recessions through borrowing. Nigerian Tribune says Buhari says Nigeria exited recessions through borrowing and prioritizes defense, internal security, gives reasons for suspension of upward review of PMS pump price and to review tax waiver. A level of budget deficit is high, Senate President is saying. All right, all of this issues on the front burner and also on the front page of the Nigeria Tribune. We'll look at this as we get along as we open discussions shortly. The Nation is next, the Nation newspaper. Why we halted planned petrol price hike by Buhari. Lawmakers get 16.39 trillion naira appropriation bill. Explain approval for loans. Okay, that's the Nation newspaper. From there, let's go to the Punch. The Punch newspaper says sell refineries, moribund assets, reduce deficit. Economists and National Assemblies telling Buhari on this. Address insecurity, don't impose multiple taxes on manufacturers. Ex-LCCI DG saying this. Block tax loopholes, impose levies on luxury goods. Economist counsels the federal government. Okay, all this on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Of course, we'll be looking at this. Then from there, let's go to Business Day. Nigeria risks 10.82 trillion naira deficit on 2022 in 2022 on unrealistic revenue targets. Okay, Nigeria risks 10.82 trillion naira deficit in 2022 on unrealistic revenue budget. Okay, from there let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Guardian says budget of growth raises doubt amid high debts, low incomes. Budget of growth raises doubt amid high debts, low income. That's the Guardian newspaper. From there, let's go to the Vanguard. The Vanguard newspaper says Buhari disowned Malami on emergency. Anambra governor is saying this. Blasts Malami, says Buhari warned against intimidation by any party. Okay, from there let's go to the Daily Sun. PDP neck okay zoning of party chair to the north. Okay, Atiku rejects decision. Yeah, says he won't solve Nigeria's problems. And that's Daily Sun. This Nigeria says as battle for 2021 election hots up, through presidency open to all regions, says Atiku. That's this Nigeria. Blueprint is also on politics. Atiku on zoning. PDP has its rules. Nigerians their choice. That's what Blueprint is saying. News Direct is next, and it says 2023 power rotation. PDP insists zoning will not affect executive legislative seats. That's what News Direct is saying. And Leadership newspaper, on the other hand, says federal government secretly raises electricity tariff. Federal government secretly raises electricity tariff. That's the Leadership newspaper. National Economy is the last one we're looking at now. It says climate change threatens Nigeria's $269 billion ocean resources. Climate change threatens Nigeria's $269 billion ocean resources. Okay, that's what National Economy is saying. All right, gentlemen, let's go to the issue of budget presentation and what Nigerians are saying and the feelings generally. It's no longer news. President Buhari has presented the appropriation bill for 2022 to the National Assembly, 16.39 trillion naira. That's a lot of money. But then there has been concerns regarding the fact that we're going to be borrowing to finance that budget. But if you see what the president is quoted as saying on the front page of Tribune, he says Nigeria exited recessions through borrowing. So there's no big deal in borrowing. I wonder what you make of this.
Yes, let's be fair. I think President Muhammadu Buhari came into government when it wasn't too rosy for not just Nigeria, but the world as a whole. And to have exited, recession twice, I think we should give it to him. It may not be the best when it comes to macroeconomics and all that, but at least to a larger extent, I think he has succeeded in not, making Nigeria appear as what some want us to appear like. And so that's why I give it to him in that regard. The only challenge is that most people don't know what is going on at the backstage or background or, in the corridors of power. They don't know the kind of energy, brainstorming that is being put into governance to ensure that Nigeria keeps floating, you understand? And that's why, but of course, we should not blame Nigerians, the fact that some of these things do not reflect, directly on our livelihood every day may suggest to people that, what is government doing? But we must also note that at least for a while now, the price of petrol, which is an indices that we always consider to say, okay, government is fair to the masses or not.
We predicate the entire budget and
at least
national plan.
We must commend the government for stabilizing that price for a while now. We've not had issues of, rise in the price of PMS and all that. So we must give it to the president and his economic team. For me, I'm scoring them well in this regard, no problem, because borrowing is something that we can't do without. Even in civilized countries and the so-called saner climes that we talk about, they do a lot of borrowing to augment what they have on ground. So fine.
All right, that's your perspective. Let's bring Chris Kendewandu up here now to give us perspective. Now, Chris, if you see the front page of the Punch newspaper, the National Assembly as well as other economists are saying sell refineries, moribund assets, reduce deficits so that you can generate revenue, and then areas where monies are going into and we're not seeing results, you can block all of those holes and then see how you can raise monies to finance the budget. I wonder what you make of this.
Well, Mike, I see my brother sitting down there saying he commend the government for this, for that, and I totally disagree with him. I'm not commending any government for what they've done. He said they stabilize prices of fuel. The price of fuel, as it were, is what it's supposed to be. If we have our refineries working, are we going to be buying fuel at the prices as it were presently? If we don't the needful as we're supposed to do, are we not ashamed to be a petrol importing country when we produce bulk of what it takes to produce petroleum in Nigeria? We produce crude oil in large quantity and we export and now export those petroleum from other countries. That's nothing to be cheerful about. So I totally disagree with him. That is shameful for me. This government since 2015 had agreed and told us that we are going to revive all the refineries until now. No single one is working. But let me go to the budget as it were, so that I don't digress from the issues at stake. First and foremost, I will just commend the government of President Buhari for being able to change the narrative when we come to the budget framework, taking us back to what we used to be in those days, budget starting from January to December. Unlike what we had in the past, where at times we start implementing budget in March, June, and the rest of them. But now the president has been able to present that. He has been doing that for about 2-3 years now. Make sure that the National Assembly work on the budget so that by January 1st, the implementation will start. That to me is commendable, and that is where it stops. What I have not come to see is how the president is going to stop the borrowing. No country, he said countries borrow. He was talking about countries across the globe borrowing. It's not borrowing that is much of the problem. The problem is that when they borrow, what do they use the money for? And that is where the issue is. Even the Senate president yesterday during the budget presentation cautioned the president that we should at least cut down on this foreign borrowing so that we can look inward and see areas of revenue generation. I did not see the president state that. I didn't see how he didn't emphasize on how he's going to do that. And he's talking. My brother also talking about the economic team. Do we have an economic team? If we have an economic team, we will not be where we are presently. Our economic team have totally collapsed. I don't think we have any, if there's any. We're also talking about coming out of recession. Fine, all well and good. For me, those are rhetorics. Once it does not boil down to the money in the pocket of Nigerians, and it does not reflect on the prices of goods and services, then whether we're going into an out of recession, to me, is neither here nor there. But what I believe that, and I always advise and I would say, is that the government should look inward and find way of diversifying the economy. Total reliance on crude oil as our major revenue will not help us. The agricultural sector has been supposed to be one of the key factors. And the last government of Goodluck Jonathan tried a lot to do that, to try to diversify economy. And that is where you saw someone like the president of African Development Bank, additional, where he made his mark. Whereas you remember what happened in the rice sector, cassava sector, and the rest of them. But we are not seeing all that now. So to me, if we don't do the needful, we'll continue to find ourselves where we are, where we continue to borrow. And Mike, is it not alarming that according to what we had, we are using about 90% of our revenue to service debt? Mike, I'm sure you must have heard of that. That is terrible. What is left? Then, taking it down, the issue is not also presenting the budget to the National Assembly. The issue is implementation of this budget. You come to realize that at times we don't even be able to implement about 50% of the budget. That is also an issue. So those are areas we should be looking at instead of praising the government for doing that and doing this and doing that. Okay. To me, I don't see anything surprising what the president's done.
Okay. All right. Let me come back to the studio. Abayomi, the point there is, the government keeps, in fact, from the inception of this government, they've always talked about the fact that there's no money. You know, there hasn't been money all the while. So there has been continuous borrowing and all of that. Other economists and analysts have said, well, okay, fine, there's no money. Let's agree. But what are the creative ways of generating revenue, generating monies in such a way that we can begin to balance what we need and other avenues where resources is coming in? That's part of the concern of Nigerians.
Let me start by saying that Oga CKN News, we have something in common. And what is that thing is that he still commended the president, at least for maintaining that January to December, time frame and all that. So the fact that I commended the president is not out of place. And the truth is this, you see, borrowing, when it comes to borrowing, is not a unilateral decision of the president. And when he said there are no economic team, I wonder who then is advising the president. Of course, the president has not prided himself as a super economist or a super financial guru that can possibly manage the economy of the country without itches. No, he has not prided himself in that. So definitely he will be relying on the counsel of experts in that regard. Now, you can't possibly go ahead to borrow without, receiving counsel from some experts and also passing through the National Assembly. The National Assembly is expected to be the representative of the people, speaking the mind of the people. So if at any point in time the National Assembly feels that this borrowing is out of place, this borrowing is not supposed to take place, then they should halt it at that point. But usually they consent to the borrowing simply because they were probably convinced they saw superior arguments presented to them by the president and his economic team that there is a need for us to borrow, and that's exactly why.
And also not seeing an avenue where revenue can be raised or generated.
You see, that is the point. We can't shy away from the fact that the Senate president, or even the Senate, of course, if the Senate president is talking, it's probably speaking the mind of the Senate. As in, it's not as if they usually give express approval to some of this borrowing. They've stated, in some cases, and now the Senate president is advising the president to see how they could, work this out without always going to borrow. Now, another option is increasing taxes, and which is not an option for us in Nigeria. Yeah. In fact, presently in Nigeria, we want a situation whereby they will say, don't pay anything, we just want to be enjoying. So let alone somebody now coming up with a situation that taxes have been increased. Look at some of the revenue generation drive of this government, the increase in a VAT, and all that. They were met with reactions from
but the point there is Nigerians know all of these things. But what they're saying is that we're not saying don't increase taxes. We want to see what these taxes are used for. But what is even most important is that at least even government record has shown that less than 50% of people who are supposed to pay taxes are paying taxes. So how can government ensure that people who are supposed to pay tax actually pay tax?
That is the point where I'm going to. Government needs to renew the trust that people have in them. And it's by force giving so much to the people so that the people will now owe government. That is the way it should be now. Okay. So that when you give so much to the people, yes, the presidency will come out and say they've invested in railways, they've invested in so many other things like that. But people
we're actually seeing the railways.
We are seeing the railway, but I can't remember the last time I used that. We want to see good roads, for example. In my area, we want to see good roads. That's an indication that government is working. So if I'm not seeing the good roads, simply means that government is probably not working. So and the same applies to some other people too.
Okay. Now, CK, let me bring you in here. Talking about the president has given the budget for 2022. I wonder what concerns you have when it comes to the performance of budgets, because every year, like the budget for 2021 is still, when it comes to its performance, is still what Nigerians are saying. Well, like both of you have commended the government at one point or the other, but when it comes to the overall performance of the budget that is meant to lift Nigerians out of poverty, like the president has said, that 100 million Nigerians are still waiting to be lifted out of poverty. So what concerns do you have regarding the performance of budget that is supposed to help empower people and lift them out of poverty?
Mike, during my opening remark and statement, I stated it. I said the problem we have is with budget implementation. And I said over the years, we've not been able to hit even the 50% mark in budget implementation. And that should be a problem. It should be a problem. That is when I'm talking about the economic team. My brother said, if we don't have an economic team. When I said you don't have an economic team, I didn't mean that there are no physical economic team on ground. What I'm saying is that what they have they been doing? Have they been able to deliver? Is it the kind of economic team you had before that had Okonjo and the rest of them? The vice president at the point was appointed the head of the economic team. I don't know what happened thereafter. But back to your question, the issue is that we should be able to make sure that these budgets are well implemented. And that is where the National Assembly comes into play in their oversight functions. They have to make sure that most of these budgets are well implemented. But don't forget that the National Assembly have its own challenges. When it comes to budget defense, you invite ministers, they always have issues for ministers to come and defend their budgets. Several times they are invited and they don't come. Same with heads of MDAs and NDGs. That some time ago, he took the personal intervention of the president to make sure that some of his ministers attend those budget defense. And that is not good enough. So I was expecting to hear from the president yesterday when he was presenting to say that I am giving a directive that every minister, every head of department, MDA, MDGs, or whatever you call them, that is invited by the National Assembly, by the various committees of National Assembly, be it Senate, the House of Representatives, to come and defend their budget, make sure that they come. And it is that is where we begin. If they're going to come and defend it, don't also forget the defense also means that what did you do? Question will always be, what did you do with the last budget that was passed? What is the level of implementation? And that is where the issue is. So if you were a budget was passed for 100% was passed through, and you could not be able to deliver up to 60%, why didn't you deliver? Is it that the money was not released, or you couldn't do the needful? So those are the areas we'll be channeling our parents or whatever you call it, so that we must make sure that those budgets, most of them, you know what they used to do in the past is at the end of it, they have not implemented those. When they start getting to December, you just see them, they just siphon the money and take it away. But I know that there was a directive sometime ago. I don't know whether it is still available. Thank you. Return what was not spent.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Thank you very much, Chris Kendenwandu, for your time and insight on the analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. Abayomi, thank you so much for coming on the program as well.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for your insight.
I actually wanted to add some.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have all the time right now, but thank you very much. Thank you. Right.